Most of us live the same 6 months over and over again, and nothing about our life changes except for the fact we're getting older. The reason you're not progressing isn't because there's this one little hack you don't know, or as soon as this one thing happens, everything is going to change. The reason you're not progressing is because you don't allow yourself to get bored. We live lives of constant distraction, keeping our brains preoccupied so we never stop to question what we're doing or why we're doing it. This distraction allows us to hide from our problems and sweep them under the rug, but all that happens is we build a bigger and bigger monster until it's so overwhelming we never want to face it and we just give up. Since the end of 2024, I've been living a life that most people would consider complete boredom, a life without online entertainment by myself. But the truth is, the mild discomfort of boredom occasionally is far less painful than the pain of a mediocre existence with massive monsters that you never want to face. So how exactly do we get our life back on track using boredom? Well, boredom acts as the catalyst for identifying the problems and facing the monsters, but action is what's going to allow you to actually push forward and progress. So we use boredom to identify the problems, we find a potential solution, and then we lead with action. Now I'm going to break down each of these sections so this really makes sense. First thing we're doing here is using boredom to identify problems. The issue that a lot of us have right now is that we're distracted. We're constantly distracted. Our attention is split in 50 different ways. And as a consequence, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what are currently our problems, what do we have to fix. For a lot of us right now, we're focusing on, okay, what's happening in social media with all my friends? What's happening on the brain rot? What's happening with politics? What's happening with my sports teams? What's happening with these influencers? And it's just keeping you extremely distracted. And this stops you from actually identifying any problems in your life. You just think, okay, I'm just distracted. I don't know what's going on. So the very first thing is taking us from the state where we are completely distracted to the state where we're bored. This point of boredom is where you go, okay, I don't have this distraction. I actually have to figure out what's going on. What's wrong with my life right now? What can I fix? And this state of boredom is not going to last very long, particularly if you're someone who's spent your whole life distracting yourself. Your brain is really not going to like feeling bored, and very, very quickly it's going to try and find problems for you to solve, because you don't like sitting still. You don't like just sitting there and doing nothing. Your brain certainly doesn't, so your brain is going to find problems for you to solve. So very quickly, your brain is going to identify a problem. It's going to identify a problem that you have in your life that you have to solve. And this is a fantastic position to be in, because right now your brain is saying, okay, now that we're not distracted, we need to start fixing ourselves. And this is the first thing you have to fix. This is the first problem you have, which is fantastic. This is the first step of identifying the problem. And before you can fix anything, you have to be able to identify what the problem is. So the boredom solves the very first step. Now that you have a clear problem, the next thing we need to do is find a potential solution. And this is where I think a lot of people get really stuck. A lot of people spend way too much time in this phase, but the reality is life isn't like it was 50, 100 years ago when it was incredibly hard to find high quality information that could actually help you. Now it's incredibly easy. In fact, now there is an abundance of information. Information is no longer the deficiency, but a lot of us spend a huge amount of time trying to find this solution and very, very little time taking action. And I think this is a big mistake, because action is what's going to change your life, not finding potential solutions, not this research. The action itself is what's going to help you actually move forward. So we need to flip this on our head. We need to be spending the majority of our time taking action. So this solution phase should take a very, very small period of time. We want to go through these action feedback cycles really quickly, and finding a potential solution does not take a very long time. Honestly, the reason people find it so hard to find solutions is because they don't have a clear problem. They spend all day doing research, but they don't have a specific problem that they're trying to solve. The boredom, what it really helps with is identifying a specific problem, because if you know the specific problem, then finding a solution really isn't all that difficult. So I think having this boredom really helps you get in the point where you don't have to spend a very long time finding this solution, because you have a very specific problem and a very specific potential solution for that problem. Now that you've leveraged boredom to identify a problem, now that you've quickly found a potential solution, the final thing to do is lead with action, the most crucial and important step here. We've identified the problem, we've found a potential solution, now we need to take action. What happens is, we're going to take action on a potential solution that's either going to work or not work. Either way, you're going to have another problem. A lot of us hope that at some point in our lives we're going to have zero problems, but the reality is you are always going to have problems. From the day you're born until the day you die, you're gonna have problems. Your job isn't to get rid of problems. Your job is to trade your current problems with better problems. Because every day you can make your problems better and better and better. So our job is to continue running through this action feedback cycle until we can trade up for better and better problems. The faster that you can find a potential solution and implement the action, the faster that you can trade up for better problems. And this is what we're constantly trying to do. Now, so far this has been very theoretical, but I want to bring this into reality. I'm going to show you how I use this exact system to run 10 marathons in 10 months as a beginner runner. And it really wasn't that difficult when I just followed this process. So I followed this exact same problem solution action cycle for a year to go from a complete beginner runner to running 10 marathons. Let me show you how I did that. Now this all started at the beginning of 2025 where I decided, okay, I'm gonna start this monk mode project. And one of the requirements for the monk mode project was, okay, I have to exercise every single day. And at that point, all I was really doing was weightlifting. So for the first few weeks, I just lifted weights 7 days a week, but I thought, this isn't that beneficial. It's not that much better for me to lift 4 days a week versus lifting 7 days a week. I'm kind of just wasting my time here. It's better off if I find another physical endeavor. So this got me to the problem where I had 3 days to exercise, but I wasn't sure what to do. I wasn't sure what exercise to do. So after a bit of thinking, I thought, okay, one of my friends is running a bit, maybe I'll run as well. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna start running. And I very quickly went from the problem or the solution of, okay, I should start running to running. This all happened really within the same day. Now I started enjoying running. I started thinking, oh, this is actually quite cool. This is actually quite fun. Why don't I set myself a big challenge here? Why don't I try and run a marathon? That would be a pretty cool challenge. Why don't I try and hit this? Well, the problem I had is that I hadn't run more than 10 kilometers in my entire life. So trying to run 42 kilometers was actually quite a big gap from where I currently was. So what was the solution to this? Well, the solution was, okay, I have to progress my distance. I have to start progressing my distance each week to the point where I'm capable of running this marathon. So what did I do? Well, each week I started increasing my weekly distance. This was the action. So I very quickly started implementing this. Every single week I pushed the distance more and more and more. And over the course of 6 weeks, I progressed to the point where I ran my first marathon. Now this was a huge milestone for me. This was a massive achievement. This was by far the hardest thing I'd done in my entire life. And I felt amazing. I felt really good. However, during the marathon, I didn't feel so good. After about 20 kilometers, I started cramping. And this cramping got worse and worse and worse. And I had full body cramps. I was full body cramping for about 3 hours. The last 3 hours of that marathon, the last half of that marathon, I was full body cramping. And it was a absolutely miserable experience. And I thought, okay, that was brutal. I really love the fact that I ran a marathon. I want to do this again, but I really don't want to cramp for 20 Ks again. So this was my new problem. My new problem was that I cramped for 20 kilometers. So I did a bit of research, small amount of research, and I came to the solution that, okay, I need to increase my electrolytes. This is my potential solution. So what did I do? Well, I set off my next marathon and I added salt capsules. I added more electrolytes into my system while I was running. Now, remember when I told you guys, these are potential solutions. It doesn't mean that you're gonna find the correct solution every single time. This is not the case. So I set off for my next marathon, and what happened? I cramped for 20 kilometers again. This was not the solution. It may have helped, but it wasn't the end solution. So I ended up having another really, really brutal marathon. In fact, I think that one was even more brutal than the first one. I cramped for another 20 kilometers. It was absolutely miserable. I still went, okay, I love running marathons. I want to keep doing this, but I need to find a better way of doing this. I need to find a way that I can stop cramping. So I did a bit more research, and the solution I came to was, okay, I need to increase my carbohydrate intake. I need to make sure that my glycogen stores are more full so I don't get depleted and cramp. So for the next marathon, I was gonna eat more dates. Yes, at this time, I was eating dates as my fueling source. Looking back on it, that is an insane idea. I would not recommend that to anyone. I do not currently do that. However, that's what I was doing at the time, is I was eating dates for my carbohydrates. So I doubled it. I doubled my carbohydrate intake. And what happened? Well, I didn't cramp. I didn't cramp for the marathon, which was pretty awesome. And I thought, okay, this is amazing. I've just solved a massive, massive problem. Now, bear in mind, I'm still slow at running marathons. I'm still not a fast marathon runner. However, I came over a huge obstacle of basically having a completely miserable existence for 3 hours of that marathon. So I overcame another big, big hurdle. Now, this was fantastic because I'd mostly resolved my cramping issues. And for marathons 4, 5, 6, 7, I had no cramping problems, and I was really happy about that. But I came into contact with a new problem. I started getting some overuse injuries. My knees really weren't adapting too well to the fact that I was going out and running 42 kilometers every month, running a half marathon or so every week. They weren't loving it, especially with the fact that I was trying to do some other sports on the side. So I had to figure out, okay, how do I prevent these overuse injuries from happening? So I had the problem of some overuse injuries, so I did a bit of research. I tried to figure out, okay, what are these potential solutions? So I put all of my training data into Dr. ChatGPT. I asked it, okay, what's going on right now? After a bit of research, I realized, okay, I need to just not push so hard during my trainings. My heart rate is a little bit too high. I'm not really doing any zone 2. I thought I was doing zone 2, I wasn't. That was pretty annoying because that's really gonna stunt your progress in long distance running if you're not doing a lot of zone 2. But I figured out, okay, I need to not push so hard in my training. So what I did is I made sure I was training based on my heart rate. I was very strict to my heart rate, and well, that prevented the overuse injuries from happening. Now remember when I told you guys that you're never really free from problems, you just trade up for better and better and better ones? Well, this is what has been happening. So I still have problems, I just have slightly better ones right now. For me, the problem was that my training felt unproductive. Because I was spending about 4 hours a week running, it was quite a lot of time running, and I thought, okay, I'm just sitting here running. This isn't really super difficult. I'm just sitting here putting in the reps that I know are gonna progress me to the next marathon, running it better, running it faster, running it easier. But this is kind of boring, this doesn't feel super productive. So for me, the solution was, okay, why don't I try and learn languages at the same time as I'm running? At this time, I was trying to learn Spanish. I was trying to become fluent in Spanish, specifically by spending 4 hours a day receiving Spanish input. So I thought, okay, why don't I just receive Spanish input while I'm running? I don't necessarily need to be listening to amazing music all the time. I can make this time a little bit more productive. So that's what I did. I started listening to Spanish while I was running. And as a consequence, it made these long runs extremely effective use of my time. A very, very good thing for my productivity. So I finally felt like, okay, great. This is a productive thing. Now, as you can see, these problems progressed, and it all started from the point of boredom where I realized, okay, I have 3 days to exercise and I don't know what to do. It then progressed to, okay, I want to run a marathon, but I haven't run more than 10 Ks. Into cramping for 20 Ks, incorrect solution or a partial solution, so I kept cramping for 20 Ks, kept that problem, found a new problem, overuse injuries, found the problem of training felt difficult, and eventually I'm gonna have other problems, right? I'm continuing to trade up and up and up the problems. For me, this all started off with getting really, really bored. Living without the online entertainment, realizing, okay, I have a bunch of free time here that I can use doing interesting things. Let me do something different. Let me fix another problem. And it constantly makes me conscious of what are the problems I currently have so I can face them quickly and take action quickly. Because if I kept sweeping these under the rug would just get huge. It would create this huge monster that I just would not want to fight. And I would just hide and I would probably just give up. But the fact that I was able to quickly identify the problems and quickly take action meant that I never had a really big monster. And it was very easy for me to constantly take it down. Now, for any online entrepreneurs watching this video, if you want to turn distraction into deep work to grow your business, then you can join the Modern Monk community for free. I'll leave a link in the description below for that. For everyone else, if you want to see just what happens over the course of the year, if you get really, really bored, then you can check out this video right here. Thanks for watching. Cheers.